Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Tuesday talk. It looks like everyone is on from the participant side, so let me stop sharing my screen here. Okay. And we already have a Q&A. Look at that. Okay. About bathrooms. Oh, interesting. All right. So good afternoon and welcome to another Tuesday talk. This is our second to last Tuesday talk, guys, which you know that means training program is coming to an end and race day is fast approaching. I know a lot of y'all are getting nervous and anxious and all of the above. So we're going to address that today. Obviously, this is a Norton Sports Health Tuesday talk on behalf of the KDF Mini and Marathon Training Program. So today we are talking about mental preparedness for race day. And when I say race day, that also kind of means right now as we're tapering, also the couple of days before race day, the night before, which is always the nervous point, and then as you're towing up to that start line on your designated race day. So running in any race is a mental game. So we all know you guys are ready physically. You've been following the training program. Physically, you're there. The hay is in the barn. You're good to go. But are you ready mentally? And that's what we want to talk about today. Just a couple housekeeping things. This is being recorded, so you can always look back at it in the Facebook group because we do post it the very next day. Everyone is muted and no one is on camera except for me and Dr. Shannon. So let's go ahead and introduce our special guest today. Dr. Vanessa Shannon. Dr. Shannon is the Director of Mental Performance at Norton Sports Health and the University of Louisville Athletic Department. So she deals with all the U of L athletes and all their craziness going on over there. Dr. Shannon is more than a captivating and insightful mental performance specialist. She is one of those rare people who can see everyone's side on an issue, speak the truth in a compassionate way, and provide advice in a way that still allows you to make your own decisions. Dr. Shannon finds a way to empower everyone who comes in contact with her, and we are so happy to have her today on our Tuesday talk. Welcome. You're muted. You're muted. There you are. Yay.
I couldn't unmute. I think you all had to do that for me because we put everyone on mute. Yeah. I was feeling a little out of control there. Thanks so much for the introduction, Stephanie. I appreciate the kind words. I'm happy to be here with you all to talk about mental preparedness for race day. And as Stephanie mentioned, the things that I'll share with you today, and feel free to ask questions. And I know some people will be watching the recording of this. But they apply not just to race day, but to your training, to be honest. And to be frank, they apply to life. Because if we think about life as a performance, that is really the case, whether we're, at our job, whether we're in our family unit, whatever it might be, all of these tools and ways to effectively think and process our emotions can be impactful in all spaces of our life. So I'm going to share my screen with you all.
As you're doing that, let me just remind you all, there is a Q&A section at the bottom of this Zoom video. So use it. Those questions that are coming up in your mind when you're doing that 20-mile training run, when you're doing that 12-mile training run, and you're thinking about, as we're going into getting closer to race day, throw them in those Q&As. We want to address them. Let's try to keep those Q&As to more of the mental aspect as we come up to race day, because next week we're going to address more race day logistics. Okay, so what are you thinking right now? Throw it in there. We will try to help you out and calm your nerves. Take it away, Dr. Shannon.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephanie. So as Stephanie mentioned, I'm the Director of Mental Performance for both Norton Sports Health and the University of Louisville Athletic Department. And just kind of to conceptualize a little bit of what that means, a lot of people, I travel with our teams, they'll see me in Louisville gear, they'll say, "Are you a coach?" And I'll say, "Kind of." I am a mental performance coach in essence. So I'm here to support our student athletes' mental performance needs and all that that entails. I'm also here to help refer them to our director of mental health, Kate O'Brien, who's another Norton Sports Health employee. So we have a couple of different options to serve our student athletes here. But today what I want to do is help use some of the information and knowledge and tools and strategies that I know can be helpful in this space to share with you all so that you can apply it to not only your race day, but also your race day training. So the first thing I want you to kind of consider is many of you are likely engaging in a significant amount. In fact, I know you are, that's not likely, a significant amount of physical training. Some of you may as well also be engaged in some technical training. So if you're a newer runner, you may actually be focused on kind of your technique and your gait and being really efficient and really effective. And again, depending on where you are in your marathon journey what experience you have, you may be doing some technical training. So you may be reading about kind of race plans, or you may be reading books on different tactical strategies of how to attack a marathon and how to be successful in that space from a tactical perspective. What I want to ask you is, have you ever really considered how much your mental performance might contribute to your overall performance, and how much specifically your thoughts and emotions can contribute to either maximizing your potential and the work that you put in, or unfortunately at times diminishing that potential and the work that you put in. This equation was shared with me a couple of years ago by Dr. Fergus Connolly, who's a sports scientist, and he came to our campus to talk to a bunch of our coaches and staff. And the equation at the time he had shared was every athlete's performance or exerciser's performance is equal to their potential minus anything that disrupts that potential. And over the last couple of years in using this with our athletes here on campus and the athletes I work with in the community here in Louisville and across the country, I've realized that I think there was a key ingredient missing in that formula, which is work. And that's the training that we put in. So I want you to think in that way of kind of conceptualizing your performance on race day as equal to your potential, plus the work that you're putting in now and going to continue putting in all the way up until race day, minus anything that you may allow to disrupt that potential, okay, and that work. And so I want to prepare you in a way for race day and to maximize the potential of the rest of your training by talking about the types of things that might disrupt us, and then some strategies for how we can learn to prevent those disruptions, manage, recover from those disruptions, and all the things that we need to do in order to maximize our potential in our work and in affect our performance. I know that Dr. Modlinsky was on previously, I believe, talking a little bit about the same type of thing in terms of race day logistics. And he has the experience of being an endurance athlete and also an orthopedist. And so I know he was talking to you about expecting the unexpected. Today, I'm going to talk to you about how to expect the expected. Okay, so again, have you really considered how much influence your thoughts and emotions can have on your performance? And I do work with distance athletes here. I don't work with athletes, marathoners. We don't have a marathon team on campus, but we have distance runners, we have distance swimmers, and it's a significantly shorter distance. But even in those distances compared to our sprint groups, I often get the question from our athletes of, it's a really long time for me to be managing my thoughts and emotions, or for me to be controlling my thoughts and emotions. They think that it's about thinking a certain way and being steadfast and always thinking that way, or feeling a certain way and maintaining that emotion the entire time. And their question for me always is, how can I do that? It's such a long period of time. And certainly a marathon is an even longer period of time. So the first thing I want to remind you of is you will feel a range of emotions during your time during the race, and you will feel a range of emotions on training runs. The expectation would not be that you set out feeling a certain way and you're able to maintain that throughout the entire period of time. That would be almost an impossibility. Similarly, you're going to think about a whole lot of things. And so what I want to share with you today are some strategies for how to sort of surf the waves, so to speak. There is a great quote by John Kabat-Zinn, who is a mindfulness expert, and he says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I use that analogy often with my athletes here, and I think it applies really well in terms of a marathon. The waves will continue to come. It's not about stopping those waves. It's about knowing how to surf them. And so I'm here to share some strategies with you that hopefully make you a better surfer through your training and on race day. Very simply put, if we think about it, effective and helpful thoughts and emotions drive performance up. Ineffective and unhelpful thoughts and emotions drive performance down. And I use those words really specifically. Notice I don't say positive thoughts and emotions or negative thoughts and emotions. The reason I don't use those identifiers is because all thoughts and all emotions are normal. All thoughts and all emotions are really useful. Okay, sometimes they're less helpful and less effective in terms of influencing our performance. But in the world of sport, we tend to get into a space where we say, you always have to think positive. You always have to be tough. You always have to have a good attitude. You always have to have a certain mindset. And although that would be great if we could do that, and that would contribute really effectively to our performance, I think we all know that that's really challenging to do because life is life. And we have different experiences, external factors outside of us that can influence our experience of things. And so it's very challenging to maintain the things that are expected of us. And it's important that you realize that's okay. You're not expected in this space to maintain, to always have positive thoughts. And so you might be thinking, well, hold on. Down below, you're saying unhelpful thoughts and emotions drive down performance. So wouldn't negative thoughts be unhelpful or ineffective and drive down my performance? Think about it like this, particularly related to your training. If you go out and you have a great day of training, and then the next day you go out and you do not have a great day of training, you have a less than great day of training, the influences may have been external. Maybe it was the weather, okay? Maybe it was somebody outside of you shared some news with you right beforehand and you allowed it to influence your training. But a lot of the influence on whether you have a great day of training or a less than great day of training lies between your two ears, okay? And it lies in your nervous system and your ability to manage your thoughts and shift your attention and focus to the things that you can control, and also keep your nervous system, which really wants to do its job, at bay a little bit. And I'll explain that as we move forward. In that moment, on the day when you're having a less than great training, if you were to catch yourself during that day of training and say, hold on, like I'm not controlling what I can control here, and I'm not doing a great job of this, I'm not doing a great job of that, and if I focus on those things, I'm gonna actually have a better day of training, that is actually technically negative self-talk, but you can see that in that moment, it would be helpful, okay? So I really wanna kind of make sure that we paint this picture of the fact that we are going to have thoughts and feelings. We're going to have thoughts and emotions related to training, related to race day. All of them are normal. All of them are understandable. If we sat down in a session together and you asked me, why did I feel this way? I could tell you exactly why you felt that way. Why was I thinking this? I could tell you exactly why you were thinking it. And I could tell you that hundreds of thousands of athletes before you have had those same thoughts and feelings. So they're normal. Okay, and what we want to do is we want to make sure that they're helpful and that they're effective and that they're having a positive influence on our performance. So how do we do that, right? How do we use mental performance to improve overall performance? It really starts with developing a higher level of awareness of how our thoughts and our emotions impact our performance. And so that awareness can be garnered in a number of different ways, and we'll speak to that, or I'll speak to that in a minute. That awareness then plays into regulation. So we have to have that foundational awareness in order to control or regulate. Once we know what we're thinking and feeling, then we can change what we're thinking. We can manage what we're feeling so that we can maximize our performance. I've had many an athlete come into my office and they'll say, I'm not playing my best. And I'll say, what's going on? And they'll say, I don't know. And I'll say, okay, let's go back to the last performance or the last practice. What were you thinking? And they'll say, I don't know. Okay. And part of that, again, comes kind of from the culture of sport and the fact that many of you even, and many of our student athletes, I myself, as an athlete throughout my life, often heard phrases like, Don't think, just do, right? Stop thinking, you're thinking too much. Just feel it, just do it. And all that, although that advice is true, only to a certain extent. So we are thinkers. Our brains are processing systems. They constantly consume information and think. That's what they're meant to do. So when that coach or that person in your life once said to you, don't think so much, just do, what they really were trying to get you to realize is that you want to think very small and you want to think very purposefully and specifically, and you want to be the driver of your thoughts. You don't want to allow your thoughts to be a consequence of the environment around you. They've done studies on mental chatter where they go to public places like beaches, malls, and they just walk up to people and they ask them and they code their thoughts, right? Were they aimed at being successful, helpful, effective thoughts? Were they aimed at avoiding failure, worry, concern of things they couldn't control? And what they find when they just randomly ask people in public places what their thoughts are, 70 to 80% of people are thinking ineffectively at any given moment because they are allowing the environment and external factors to control their thoughts. So we want to be the driver of our thoughts. If we're the driver of our thoughts, it helps us manage our emotions. And that starts with self-awareness. Some of you may already be engaging in meditation. If you're not engaging in practicing meditation, I would suggest that you try it. Okay, I'll give some words of wisdom when it comes to meditation. You may not feel anything after you meditate. You may feel activated after you meditate. You may feel a sense of energy. You may feel awakened. Some people even describe feeling a little bit anxious after they meditate. And the third way you may feel is you may feel really relaxed. And so I say that because based on how meditation makes you feel, you want to choose when you do it throughout your day so that you can use the feeling and the benefit of the feeling in a way that's most helpful and impactful for you. There are some great meditation apps out there, Calm, Headspace. I use an app called Stop, Breathe, Think with our athletes here on campus. Some of them use Headspace and Calm on their own. You can also find guided meditations on YouTube. But what this will do is it will build up your awareness. So it will make you more in tune with your thoughts and your emotions in a faster way so that you can more quickly regulate them. And as I say, wrangle them in, get a hold of them, change your thoughts, manage your emotions, whatever you need to be doing. Okay. Lots of benefits for meditation that can be impactful for training on race day, other than just increasing your awareness and your ability to attend to things. There's, it makes recovery, more benefits for recovery, sleep, stress inoculation, all sorts of things that can be helpful. So I would challenge you to raise your awareness. Meditation is one way of doing it. Two other quick tips there for how we can raise awareness. Okay, I don't have time to meditate, or I've tried the app-based meditating. I don't really think it's for me. Whatever it might be, the reason that you might choose not to meditate. Here are two other things you can do that can be helpful. One is practice the pause. Throughout your day, deliberately, set a goal of 5, set a goal of 10, practice the pause. All that means is pause in what you're doing. Take a deep breath, and then reset your intention, whether it's a task, whether you sit down, you've just buckled your seatbelt, you're about to drive, now I drive. Whether you just sat down for a meeting, now I'm in the meeting. The phrase that we use often is be where your feet are, right? Be where your feet are. And that tends to better allow us to maximize our performance. We can do that by practicing the pause. That increases our attention and awareness. Now I can control my thoughts and emotions. And then the other thing is do one thing, repeat. Stop multitasking. And I know that's really hard. I do it all the time. Okay. I'm technically doing it right now. I'm playing with this pen and I'm having this conversation with you. I'm multitasking. I have an ongoing argument with one of our head coaches, and he loves to show me at times, I'm multitasking. Look how effectively I'm multitasking. And I always have to remind him, you're not multitasking. You're shifting your attention between the two tasks. And they've done studies that show when we do tasks subsequent to one another or simultaneously, when we do them subsequent one then another, we get a lot more of enjoyment, satisfaction, a greater sense of accomplishment, and we tend to actually be more efficient. So those are two ways that you can practice increasing your awareness without using something like meditation. So what do we do once we're aware of our thoughts and emotions? What do we do? How do we regulate? This is a great 3-step process that's actually adopted from ACT, which is acceptance and commitment theory, which is you acknowledge, you accept, and you adjust. So if I'm feeling nervous about my training, if I'm worrying as I approach race day that maybe I'm not prepared, I want to acknowledge that. I want to say, okay, I'm worried. Then I want to accept it, because as I mentioned before, it's normal, right? It's normal to be worried. It makes sense. You value the fact that you've committed so much time and energy, and now you're preparing to compete in the marathon. And so you'd value it. It's normal that you'd worry about it. So I acknowledge it, I accept it, and I adjust to it. How do I adjust? If it's a thought, if it's a persistent thought, I want to change that thought. If I'm worried about failing, if I'm thinking I'm not prepared enough, I want to try and focus my thoughts instead at aiming at success. So, okay, let me control what I can control. Yes, I'm worried. That's normal. But let me not minimize the work that I still can put in by worrying so much about it that I don't get as much out of it. Let me instead, when I go on my training run today, really try and focus on things that I can control. And also, because there's so much time there, understand that it's okay to get distracted and be mindful of your environment. Listen, notice, observe. What do you see on your run? What do you hear on your run? What are you observing? People you pass, buildings you pass, trees you pass, birds you see go overhead, UPS planes that fly overhead. All of those are good things actually to notice. They mean you're being mindful, and they allow you to give your thoughts a rest and kind of have them attached to things external of you, but non-judgmental and not unhelpful to yourself. In terms of emotions, we want to do the same thing. I feel stressed. I feel anxious. Physically, I feel it, right? Okay, I feel some kind of way. That's normal. I value this. How do I adjust to that? There are two things that you can do, and they will work while racing. One of them will work better pre-race, but one of them will work pre-race and during race. One is simple breath control. So pre-race, if you start to feel the nerves, understand they're a good thing, okay? As Billie Jean King said, pressure is a privilege. It only comes to those who've earned it. But at the end of the day, it's also your nervous system doing what it's supposed to do. It's seeing a threat in the environment. This threat is this marathon, the 26.2 miles. It's arming you for battle. It's going to send adrenaline places that you're not used to having it in that load. And you're going to get maybe shaky hands, butterflies in the pit of the stomach, an elevated heart rate. Use a little bit of breath control. Remember the phrase, smell the roses, blow out the candles. Little bit of breath control, just like that, can help connect with the nervous system and let the nervous system know I'm aware of the threat, I'm prepared for the threat. You can kind of settle down. The second thing you can do is you can make lemonade. And so life gives us lemons, we make lemonade. So progressive muscular relaxation is a type of relaxation that we can do that elicits a relaxation response from the body. And usually you do it, you lay down, you go through every muscle in the body, you do a body scan. You don't have time to do that. You can't say time out in the middle of the marathon, I have to lay down and do 10 minutes of PMR. So instead you can do it simply by squeezing your fist, like you're squeezing a lemon and then dropping the lemon. Squeeze the lemon and then drop the lemon. And that's why I call it making lemonade. So hopefully these are some strategies that you can incorporate into your training as well as into your race day, so that you can manage those disruptions, recover from anything that disrupts you, and maximize your potential and have a really great performance and a good experience. I will stop there, and if we have any questions, then we can answer them.
All right, awesome stuff. And hopefully that's going to help you all kind of get through some of your mental blocks that you may have throughout the race or even over the next couple of weeks. And that is something I did want to touch on. It seems like the nerves actually start to come in a little more during tapering. So when we're tapering and we're not running as much, and I'm telling you guys, hey, you need to rest a little more. You need to just kind of dial it back, you know. I say go for a 3 or 4 mile run and you push it up to 6 or 7 or 8 because you're feeling good. We need to dial it back. And I have a feeling that sometimes nerves just kind of make that happen, right?
Yeah, let me speak to that too, Stephanie, because I think if people know why they're experiencing the nerves there, then they can kind of keep them at bay. Think of it in terms of resources and demands, right? We want to even balance between resources and demands. I want to feel like I have the resources to meet the demands of the situation. And so as I lower, or I think I'm lowering, to your point, my perceived resources, then there's a disconnect between my resources and my demands, and people tend to feel a little bit more stressed or more anxious. But what you have to do is you have to take what Stephanie is teaching you about running and tapering and things like that, and all the information you're learning, and you really have to remember that tapering is a resource. It's part of the process to allow your body to adjust to volume and load. And so your resource is not being depleted, it's staying the same. And if you think about it in that way, you may be able to kind of manage that anxiety that you feel about tapering and lowering your load.
Yeah, anxiety is a good word. That's the anxiety that comes in. And then, you know, as we're getting closer, and then it's 2 days before or the night before, you know, you have your packet and you have everything ready to go, and you know, you have it's very strange this year because of the 4 different days of racing, and some people might even be having more anxiety because they're assigned to run a mini marathon on a Thursday, which is something nobody ever does. You know, everyone's like, Saturday morning on the dot, 8 a.m. I got to run. So how do you help calm, you know, those fears? Is that more of the you can't control the uncontrollable moment?
Yeah, you know, it's a great question. And I think you bring up a really good point, because sometimes the way that people most experience nervousness is sleep disruption, right? And they'll get kind of caught with this racy mind, and they're thinking about it, and they're checking off their checklist, like, do I have my shoes? Do I have my socks? And they're going through the process. And so there's a couple of strategies that can help there. One is write things down. The night before the race, offload your thoughts, write things down. And there's a great book by Daniel Levitin. It's called The Organized Mind. And he talks about this idea that we really have a bandwidth of ability to think and focus throughout a day. And it's kind of genetically predisposed, but we can build it up. And there are certain things that limit it. And stress is something that will limit it. And so what we can do to not get caught in that racy mind thought is we can offload those thoughts, or we can share them with a friend or with a race partner or something like that. And that way we're kind of getting them out of our brain and allowing our brain to settle in a little bit more. The 3 A's technique that I shared earlier, acknowledge, accept, adjust, can be really helpful in this space too. I'm worried about race. I'm worried I'm not going to sleep. I'm stressing, now I'm not going to sleep. Okay, that's normal. Let me adjust. Let me lay in my bed. Let me focus on my breath. Let me take some deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, nice and slow. Let me use the strategy like counting back from 100 backwards. And those types of things, again, tend to help us kind of adjust to the worry once we've accepted it. Okay, but the biggest thing is acceptance. Most of us are very uncomfortable in that space because many of us have not experienced a lot of anxiety, and particularly so much that it might disrupt our sleep, that it might be kind of our constant worry for several days. So you really have to get down with yourself and say that it's normal. It may not be normal for me all the time, but given the circumstances, it's normal, right? My nervous system has identified this threat, and it's kind of doing this stuff that it's supposed to do to help me prepare for the threat and fight for the threat. It feels a little weird and uncomfortable, but it's normal.
Awesome. And then I did want to talk about, so, you know, and I really like that you brought up during training runs, kind of get out of your own headspace by just noticing the surroundings around you. You know, that's a new building. I'm going to, you know, run by it. I'm going to enjoy it. Oh, that's a pretty tree. Oh, I'm running downtown and I smell bourbon, you know, baking. That's cool. You know, noticing your surroundings, and, you know, doing that during the race will also kind of take your mind off the fact that you may not feel great, or it may be hot from the sun. It may be raining, and who knows, there may be a dog that runs out in front of you. You never know. So I really like your thoughts on taking in your surroundings to kind of take your mind off of the inevitable.
Yeah, and let me touch on something you mentioned there too, Stephanie, that I've not spoken to, which is we've talked a lot about nervousness, but we've not necessarily talked about physical discomfort that you might feel. And if you have time and you're a reader, there's a great book called How Bad Do You Want It by Matt Fitzgerald, who's a former marathoner and former triathlete. And he will tell you at the beginning of the book, he's not a trained psychologist, but it's kind of his layman's, as he refers to, approach to the psychology of running. And he speaks to kind of this idea of the pain and discomfort that come with running. And again, the strategy that he suggests, which is the strategy I use with my athletes here, you know, pain in a mini marathon or a distance run is a lot longer lasting, but it's quite similar in intensity to the pain that some of our 400 IMers in the pool feel. And so it's really about understanding that that discomfort is part of the process. And there's a military acronym that they use, or I should say phrase or mantra, embrace the suck. And that's kind of the best strategy, right? Is to say, okay, at some point my legs are going to feel awful, but that's because my body has this, my brain has this governor in it, much like a golf cart does that governs the speed, or much like your faucet does that governs the hot water or the temperature of the hot water. Our brains have this governor in it, and they're set for basically everyday life. And so when we want to push past and we want to exert more energy than everyday life requires, there is a little bit of our brain that goes, bad idea, bad idea, bad idea. And so we have to use our mind, the thinking part of our brain, to say, I know you're in there and you're making me want to quit, but I'm not going to let you do it. I'm going to push past because I know I can.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of just, you know, my mind is telling my body, like, shut up legs, shut up hips, shut up feet. You shut up. I'm in control here. It really is much more of a mental game, especially the longer you go. So I tell myself to shut up all the time. And another thing that I do during a race is just kind of develop small goals. Like, okay, well, I know I'm going to run to the next water stop, and then I'm going to kind of adjust and see how I feel and be aware. And then I'm going to set another goal to run to that next pole or whatever it may be, you know. And I think setting small goals kind of helps break up that long time that you're out there during the race.
Yeah, that's a fantastic strategy. Yeah, actually, I don't teach. Coaches will always ask me to come in and talk about goal setting, and I don't teach goal setting anymore. I teach what I call goal getting, which is a phrase that my friend Dr. Lauren Tashman shared at a conference a couple of years ago. But I love that. And ironically, the way I teach goal getting is I say, okay, the goal is the finish line of a marathon. Now let's backtrack and let's have some mile markers. Let's have some small goals, right? And then let's also have a roadmap and a detour plan, because we know we're going to come upon like construction and road bumps and things like that. So you want to have a plan for those disruptions. But I love the small goals, so good. And again, when we think in terms of resources and demands, if the demand is small, I know I have the resources. So I love that small goal strategy. I think it's great.
Yeah, and then I did want to just address, we had a little Q&A about about bathroom stops. And you know what, honestly, the bathroom is a big nervousness for a lot of people, including myself. You know, I go to the bathroom without doing too much TMI here. You know, I go to the bathroom a lot the morning of the race, so get it all out. But there are bathroom stops, guys, and I know that can be a lot of nervousness, like, where are the water stops? Where are the bathroom stops? Well, I'll tell you right now, every water stop has a porta-john, so you'll be clear there. And go on and look at, I also posted it in the Facebook group, go on and look, go down the list of the FAQs that KDF has on their website that answer so many of those logistical questions that you guys have, bathrooms, waters, you know, route, all of those things. And that's going to help alleviate your mind a little bit if you know what you're doing. And then you have a plan, like I know I'm carrying a water bottle. I know every 5 miles I'm going to plan on filling up that water bottle and taking my nutrition. That's my plan. And that helps settle my mind. What is your plan? How is that going to settle your mind? So having a plan will help you out, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, great point too. As the more information you have, y'all, again, right, the more resources. So the better prepared you feel to meet the demands. And I think having a plan is such a good recommendation, particularly in terms of things that you know may kind of drum up your nervousness. The other thing I'll say is have a plan and then have another plan. Because understand, again, right, expect the expected. You may set out to have a plan and something may change the course of your plan. And that's okay. Just know in that moment that you're prepared to do something different, right?
Yeah, my plan is for it to be like 30 degrees and pouring down rain, and I'm going to be chafed from head to toe, and I'm not going to feel good. and my nutrition is going to be terrible. Because then not all of that's going to happen.
Yep.
Then I'll go and I'll be like, well, man, that one thing was really great. Or, oh, that actually turned out really well. I kind of go in with that plan.
You use a little reverse psychology to create perspective. I like it. Yeah.
Right. But I'm crazy. So I think all the weird things. Great stuff. Is there anything else you want to address, or? I think
I don't think so. I think, just the idea that there's going to be some discomfort in terms of how you feel physically, how you feel mentally, and there's supposed to be some discomfort, right? I talked to probably 100 of our athletes literally individually over the last month and a half. We've all been battling this thing that has had our nervous system on high alert for the last year. Life is different than it was a year ago, and it's influenced all of us differently. And so you have to sort of give yourself a little bit of a break and understand that your nervous system has been on high alert for a year, and that's not normal. And so you may be feeling things that you don't typically feel. You may be finding yourself thinking some kind of way that you don't typically think, but I'm here to tell you that given the circumstances, that's normal. And the best thing to do is just acknowledge, accept it, and then do something to adjust to it.
Fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Vanessa Shannon, guys. Let me make sure I got all the questions. Let's see. Oh, great information. Let's see. So after several half marathons, I still experience nervous feelings, not feeling well, need to go to the bathroom, weakness, etc. But once you begin running, you're fine. So before the race, I do suffer. So this information was great. Okay, so that was awesome. Awesome information for all of our trainees. It is kind of you walk up to the start line, you're super nervous, but then once you get going, you're like, I got this.
Yeah.
Keep telling yourself.
And the one thing I'll add there too is that normalizing tends to help a lot, right? You won't have no nerves. You're still going to have some nerves. You're supposed to, but normalizing and knowing that it's acceptable and it's supposed to be happening is usually really helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, if you're not nervous, well, that's pretty impressive. Everybody, I'm nervous every day, all the time. When I go out just for a 4 mile, I'm going to go out for a quick 4 mile run today, and I'm a little nervous about it. It's just a natural thing because it may be good, it may not be good. I'm going to take my dog. She might suck today. You never know.
Yeah, I always say if you're not nervous, you're either lying or we have a bigger problem.
Great. Awesome. Thank you again, Dr. Shannon. Guys, we're going to post this video on the Facebook group, so you can always watch it later, or you can watch it on your own time. And then I do want to talk about our final Tuesday talk next week. It's about all the logistics. I'm going to be live from the KDF packet pickup location, and I'm going to be talking directly with the race director of the KDF mini marathon. So every single question you have can be answered. But before you log in for that live Tuesday talk next week, make sure, again, go to the KDF website, read those FAQs, alleviate some of those questions right from the start, make yourself feel better. And you may not even have any questions because there are a lot of answers there on that site. So again, next Tuesday at noon, which is April 20th, just a couple of days before the race, we will answer your questions, calm your nerves. Again, thank you so much, Dr. Shannon, for joining us. And it is Tuesday, guys, so you do need to go get your run in this week. Take it easy. We're all in a taper mode. Enjoy the day, the sun's shining, and we'll see you next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Stephanie. Take care, everyone.